Hello everyone, I'm gonna be showcasing the new Umbral Blade Falconeer RAZORFALL setup. Get ready for this, because it's pretty crazy. We go back to bow, we go back to traps.
You fight for nothing.
No master greater than Oryx.
Terror turned her back on us.
And you can see
The void comes. The gods tore
that this DPS is something else.
We treated the world no better. Death is our legacy. Die. Pathetic.
Hopefully he comes to us now.
The void hungers. The world called to Olympus. This is his answer. The void.
Alright, so there's the new overpowered setup. As you can see, it does crazy amounts of damage. And you might be wondering, Lizard, you're playing offline, you for sure have crazier gear than the people that are showing the build with, Merchant's Guild gear and stuff. And I'm gonna show you what my gear is. I have HP idols, no damage on idols at all. I have a 4 LP, 1 tier 7 Peak of the Mountain. If you play the game enough, you know this is not too hard to get. 1 LP Nihilis. This is just HP, I'm not even going for dexterity. I just have 200 dex. You know, you can get way more than this with better gear. 1 LP, HP, cooldown stuff that you don't really need. 1 LP, 1 LP, cooldown recovery, no dex, tier 7 dex, and tier 7 crit. So again, this gear is actually pretty easy to obtain if you know what you're doing. I have better gear than this waiting in online, actually. I just don't have a Falconer, and I wanted to make a video. And yeah, we're gonna go to the dummy, and we're gonna showcase why this build is so fucking overpowered. This build, when it fully ramps, it goes to billions of DPS. The reason you can do this is because we go back to traps, and we are gonna be scaling the cooldown recovery absolutely to the moon, right? Because of this, where you're gonna be able to get more aerial assaults than any other version, and because of that, you're gonna be able to get more Umbral Blades than any other version, and more dive bombs than any other version. On top of that, you're gonna be getting tons of buffs with the explosive traps exploding, and it's gonna be absolutely insane. So again, I'm gonna go to the dummy, and you guys are gonna see that it doesn't look like much at the beginning, and then it starts ramping. It's basically like. And if I keep attacking, these numbers are only gonna get bigger because the Umbral Blades lasts for 6 seconds, and you can see my dive bombs are just like, look at my cooldowns. They're just absolutely, it's instant, basically, comparison to the other builds. It's like instant dive bombs. The reason you don't wanna be using Falconry here is because you would interrupt your dive bombs, and you don't wanna do that. So you're just going full traps. Full cooldown, and again, the kind of damage that you're doing with this build, you guys can see the numbers, you can pause the video. No other build is getting. This is basically infinite damage, and keep in mind, this is the full tank setup with Brawlers, with Blood Roost, with Null Portent, with full HP, fucking full elemental resistance idols, no snapshotting, no nothing, just like, that's it, right? So again, Terek did most of the cooking for this. As you guys know, we had a very similar build when we first released the build on max roll, but people kind of struggled with the traps early on because they're a bit more gear dependent than if you play with the non-trap version. But it turns out that traps were actually the highest DPS possible, better than dual wielding, better than everything, because of how OP Midnight Aviary is and how many Umbral Blades you can get. Keep in mind, every time you aerial assault, you get the Umbral Blades on the floor, right? Because they're dropped by the thing. And then basically what happens is you just get a crazy amount of Umbral Blades on the floor. You can see them stacking there. And eventually the damage just goes to the moon. You start doing your dive bombs, your traps keep exploding, you get more buffs, you apply a bunch of debuffs, and the amount of damage that you get on this build is just absolutely insane, basically. You can see how fast it ramps. Again, this build, when it ramps, it can kill the dummy Like again, you look at these numbers that are scaling. Yeah, we're talking 300 million or whatever it is. It gets pretty crazy. Again, this is the setup that can do the most damage by far, but it sucks at mapping. So, do I recommend you to switch to this setup? The only way I recommend you to switch to this setup is if you're just chain farming Uber Abaroth. You know, you saved a bunch of echoes. You have like 200 Uber Abaroths to do or whatever because you killed normal Abaroth so much. And you know, you respec once, right? Then you set up your web full of Abaroths, like all of this full of Abaroths, and then you go and do it. The reason why this build is not so good at mapping is because by going Might Knight Aviary, you need so many points on here that you end up not being able to spec Rushing Wings. And again, you could do this if you went for the Phantom Grip rings for the plus minion skill levels and stuff. But I'm going for red rings because I think they're actually better for the build, and I wouldn't want to gimp the build just to make it look a bit better. But the main issue you have with this build is because you're using traps and you're using all of these Falcon abilities, your mana sustain is pretty rough. The reason you sustain mana with this build is because you actually have this node on Dive Bomb, right? Without this node, you can't sustain. So unless you're fighting bosses, you are gonna struggle with mana. That's why I highly recommend not switching to this setup unless your gear is cracked, right? We can do another Uber Abaroth just so you guys can see it. Right, again, I completely raw dog this. Again, if you line up the Harbingers and everything, it can be even better. Yeah. So let's see how fast of a kill we get. Again, you're gonna be using the shadows. You're gonna be stacking the traps for the buffs, right? You see my mana is going to shit, right? But then suddenly your mana is gonna come back up, right? And you can see your damage is just absolutely retarded, right? You start stacking this again here for this guy. Now he's dead, right? Ideally, you want him to be close to the, what is it called? You want him to be close to the other guy, the fat guy, right? So when he spawns, you can kill them both at once. That guy, well, he died there. And again, you can see that, and I'm sitting on everything, right? The build is pretty tanky too. Again, this speed of kill at this tankiness and this level of gear is unprecedented. This build is not going to stay, right? This is 100% gonna get nerfed. I would even say that it probably has to get addressed sooner than later. Again, the devs don't like nerfing. There is nothing about this build that seems bugged at the moment, but my guess would be that for sure this node is gonna get a cap, right? At the moment you can just get because Umbral Blades last for 6 seconds. You know, if you cast the ability 20 times and it's casting six things per cast, plus the boots, which are giving you also Umbral Blades on based on your dexterity. Well, it just goes to a level of damage that is just not really balanced. So my opinion is that this node is gonna get a cap, and if I had to say what the cap is gonna be, it's gonna be like around 10. You know, you can get this buff up to 10 times, and obviously once they do that, the damage of the build is gonna go down. Falconer needs other nerfs, like these cooldowns are crazy. There's too many multipliers. Again, I think this patch they just nerfed the wrong things, and this build is basically a survivor, where other builds that weren't even as crazy, like Bleed and so on, got kind of screwed, right? Again, we're gonna be doing the dummy again, just so you guys can see how crazy it ramps, and you can just see that the more you attack, like the kind of ramping that you get is just like absolute insanity, right? I'm just holding my keys here, and again, the level of crits that you get are just something. Yeah, it's just like, it just keeps, the numbers keep getting zeros and zeros. It's just nuts, right? You can just see the cooldowns and everything. It's just like you can get like three dive bombs in a row and some shit. Like it's kind of nuts, right? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. A lot of the credit of this obviously goes to Tarek, who's found this iteration of the build, looking into my original setup with the traps, and then looking at the Midnight Aviary tech that a lot of the Korean guys and Jews have been pushing over the last few weeks. And if you combine both builds, you end up having this absolute monstrosity that, for sure, will get nerfed. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and yeah, we'll keep cooking, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it, and big kiss.